In our previous videos, we have created a complicated if test that mimics creating a truck where we can determine if we have a valid combination of cab size and bed length. So you see super crew and long bed doesn't work, but super cab or regular cab and long bed works. Regular cab and short bed doesn't work, super cab and short bed doesn't work, but regular cab and medium bed works, regular cab and long bed works, super cab and medium bed or long bed works. So we've kind of put together a truth table on this, but there are a couple things that I want to clean up, and then we're going to do a clean it up a bit more with a bit of refactoring and also a bit of and or logic. You see, in our existing if test, we are explicitly testing double cab or regular cab. In the else part, we're assuming that the user has chosen a super cab, but to be honest with you, that's not a safe assumption, because what if we add a different cab type in the future? Then this else part could be a super cab, or it could be some mysterious other cab type we determine in the future. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to add another else if to this block. Now, in an if test, you can have as many else ifs as you want. But one important part, the else ifs have to come after the original if, and they have to come before any else. So you can have 0 else ifs, you can have 100 else ifs, but the position where they are is important. After the if, before the else. So let's say here, if selected cab equals, what's our other option, super cab. This is going to be a nice one to replicate because the rules are the same as a regular cab. We can't have a short bed, so I'm going to say you can't have super cab and short bed, but you can have a medium bed or a long bed, so that's fine. So just status quo, let me just make sure that this works as we plan. I'll right click and choose run, and let's try super cab. Okay, and now let's try short bed, and we should get an invalid message. We get our invalid message. Okay, let's run one more time. Let's try super cab, and let's try a medium bed or a long bed. Either one is fine. So super cab, medium bed, your selections are valid. Okay, that works just fine. The problem is, this is not very readable because we have so many curlies going on. Really try to avoid this. We can make this a lot simpler by using an AND statement. So I wrote a little truth table here. An AND statement allows you to run two tests. If the test on the left is true and the test on the right is false, then the result of the entire equation is false. If the test on the left is true and the test on the right is true, the result of the entire equation is true. If the left is false, the right is true, then the entire equation is false. If they're both false, the entire equation is false. That's an AND operator. We show the AND operator simply as double ampersand in Java. Now the OR operator is very similar to the AND operator, but one subtle difference. With the OR operator, only one side has to be true for the entire equation to evaluate to true. With the AND operator, the only way for it to be true is for both sides to be true. So let's rewrite this test with an AND operator. Let's take a look at this first one. How do we get this error message? We only get this error message if this test is true and this test is true. There we go. There's that word and. So let's combine these. We have to be really careful with our curlies here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refactor a bit. I'm just going to take this back like so. If selected cab equals double cab and the double ampersand, selected bed length equals long bed, then we're going to say sorry, but you cannot choose both double cab and long bed. Let's not worry about the else part right now. I'm going to take this away. Okay? Once again, take a look at the else if. If the selected cab equals regular and the selected bed length is short, and both of these have to be true for this line to execute. Okay, let's refactor, double ampersand, and once again, take away the else part. We're no longer worried about that for the moment. Finally, if selected cab is super cab and selected bed length is short bed, sorry, you cannot have super cab and short bed. Okay. Now what I'll do is for the else part, we're going to assume that we have just looked at every invalid combination. So for the else part, remember all those blocks that I deleted? Let me put one back just temporarily. Okay. For the else part, we're going to say, okay, your selection is valid. Now, one major trick though, when we're doing all this kind of cut and pasting, it's very easy to get our curlies out of balance. So be very careful. Take a look at your tabs. Do that Alt-Shift-F trick to align tabs. Make sure that every open curly has a corresponding closed curly. And you see it's easy to see here in NetBeans because when I put my cursor on an open curly, it shows me the matching closed curly and vice versa. Those have to match. Also, the parentheses have to match. When I put my cursor by a closed parenthesis, it shows me the open parenthesis. Honestly, that's probably one of the most confusing things that people tend to do in intro programming is they tend to get the curlies out of balance or the parentheses out of balance. Nonetheless, what you see right now is a much easier to read if test than the one we did before. So let me go ahead and save, and let's run this, and we're going to see that we get the same results, just in a much more compact, much easier to read format. So run, let's try all the invalid combinations. Supercab, let's see, a supercab can't have a short bed, and we get an error message. Let's run one more time. Okay, let's try supercab, and instead of short, let's go with medium. That's a valid combination. Your selections are valid. Okay, run again. Let's try the double cab. The double cab can't have the long bed, so we should get an invalid message. Okay, invalid. Now let's try again. Let's try double cab. And let's try double cab, and let's try a valid bed size. Medium bed is fine with a double cab, and we get selections are valid. So we see in this case that we've achieved the same results, but with less nesting of our if test and a much smaller if test. Try to do that whenever you can to simplify your if tests. You see, instead of having this line 42 repeated 4 different times, we only have it in one place. As a matter of fact, there's one more thing that we can do to make this efficient. Look at line number 36, 38, and 40. And you see these lines are essentially identical, except for these two things, the cab size and the bed length. Why don't we parameterize those? Why don't we change this and say you cannot have both? We'll use that concatenation operator. So double quote plus, and we'll say selected cab, which is a variable, double quote, and, so the string literal text goes in quotes, plus, and then we'll say selected bed length. Okay. So we parameterize it, and now what we can do is we can duplicate this line in each of the parts below. Okay. Now, if you find yourself copy and pasting, that's a sure sign that there's a better way to do something. Instead of copy paste, it's much more efficient to make a method that is doing this repeated activity. To say it a different way, copy paste means you're repeating an activity. Instead of repeating an activity, have a method that does that activity and call that method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight, well, let's take the first one, that's fine. I'm going to highlight this first error message. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say refactor, and I'm going to say introduce, and then I'm going to say method. Okay, let's say error, let's say bed and cab error message, or error condition. Doesn't matter. We can just call it error if you want. Now notice, replace also other occurrences. Wow, this is really cool. Choose OK. Yep. And take a look what's happened. It's calling a method here, bed and cab error, and that's showing us our error message. Very nice. So it simply refactored that duplicated line into one method. And you might say, well, wait a minute though. This program is now a few lines longer because I've introduced a new method. But you know what? That's okay, because it's not the length of the program right now that's important. It's the ongoing maintenance. If I run the program as it is now, let me go ahead and run. And let's choose something that's invalid. So let's say double cab. And once again, long bed. We get this error message. You see it shows with an information indicator here. Okay, really this should be a warning. It shouldn't be an information indicator. And we know that we can change this because we know that showMessageDialog has several different overloaded method parameters. One of them accepts a title and a message type. And once again, that message type, error message, information message, warning message, question, or plain. In this case, the default is information. I would go either with error or with warning. I would go with, let's go with warning this time. So watch this. I'm going to change this method call, showMessageDialog. Currently it takes two parameters, 1 and 2. We're going to use the overloaded form that also accepts a title and a message type. So I'm going to add a third parameter. The title is going to be invalid combination. And now the message type, JOptionPane, and we're going to use a constant here. We're going to say warning, and we'll go ahead and let that autocomplete warning message. Let's run this again. I'm going to save. Now, important note. Note that I've only changed one line, and that is line 49. So I save, and let's run again. Okay, let's choose one invalid combination. So we'll say supercab. And supercab cannot have a short bed. Now take a look. It gives us the little exclamation in a triangle. Sorry, but you cannot choose both supercab and short bed. Now let's do a different invalid combination. Let's choose double cab and long bed. And OK. And you see, once again, we get the new updated error message and this invalid combination title that we didn't get before. So that's where it's really handy to refactor duplicated code into one method, because then all you need to do is update and maintain one method, and that method gets called 3 times, as opposed to the prior version where we would have to maintain this 3 different times. And it's not so much the effort of maintaining something 3 different times as the possibility that you might change one of them and forget to change the other 2. By having it all in one place and one common method, that's going to make things a lot easier to maintain going forward, and it's going to give you a much higher quality program. So I hope this has been helpful. In our next video, we'll take a look at some OR conditions as well. I look forward to seeing you then.